Okay, John. So let me begin by saying this is an incredible opportunity for me. I'm so honored. You have to know I have a dog named Hedwig. He's behind me. And he's Hedwig
I
because
can't see you. Your
yeah,
camera is off. My parents had a dog named Hedwig.
yeah, and it turns out it's actually a girl's name, but we decided to name him Hedwig because when he arrived to our house, he had just been castrated, so we thought it would be funny to name him Hedwig.
Oh my God, the nerve!
That nerve! I know. I'm so sorry.
Hilarious.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of your work and the work you're doing. I'm gonna talk about it a bit more in a few moments. But first of all, I want to say last time you were in Mexico City, I was there in the audience and you were singing all these songs from Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and people were singing with you every word, every lyric. It was amazing. But I don't know if you were you surprised by the fact that Hedwig has so many fans in Mexico, or did you kind of expect it?
It's interesting. The places that it seems to resonate the most are Spanish-speaking countries, Korean-speaking countries, Japanese, and the UK a little bit in France, a little bit in Germany. But it's really the Spanish-speaking countries: Spain, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia. It somehow, I don't know, it resonates. I think it's because La abuela de todo el mundo looks like Hedwig in Latin, or the great grandmother,
Like with this kind of big hair.
Yes, I was in Mexico once, and I was like, "Oh my God, Hedwig," and they're all the older ladies. I love it because also Latino countries have there's a queerness about it, even if it's conservative or what machista. There's still a glam, right? Everything, there's a heightened energy that we understand in the music, in the films, so Hedwig connects. Korea, there's different reasons, I think, because their country was cut in half. So the divided self is important in Korea because it's not that queer in Korea. It's pretty, there's lots of great art and entertainment, but it's more low key. And of course, Japan has its tradition of cross-gender performance, and kabuki and such. So I just feel so welcome in Mexico. I love the city. I love the language. I'm singing a few songs in Spanish like I did at that concert.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to be here to promote and support Manos Amigues Comedor Comunitario en Guerrero, Colonia Guerrero.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming back with this new show, and it's actually a benefit concert. So, about the costs, what was it that it moved you?
The costs?
The cost. The reason we're doing this,
Wait.
the whole.
The cause.
Manos
Yes.
Amigues, yeah.
Yes. Well, my friend Brent Alberghini, a gringo from New York, has been living in La Ciudad for 8 years, and he is a helper. He wants to help people. He helped to build a women's health clinic in Cuernavaca. He had a group called Burritos No Bombas, which was a food bank, very helpful during COVID. And it became Manos Amigues Comedor Comunitario, which is the first LGBT comedor in Mexico. If there's a need for it, I mean, there's a need for all kinds of services, of course, but specifically for queer people because they are often discriminated against at los, otros comedores because sex workers, trans people, migrantes, all people who don't always fit in, aren't treated as well. So this place is for everyone. Everyone is welcome. And it's becoming a little bit of a centro cultural porque hay, cada viernes hay música, bailando, it's becoming a little bit of a hangout, a place you can come and hang out.
Yeah.
And I love what Brent is doing and his friends. So I want to support it. I'm raising money in Estados Unidos para el comedor. And I want to bring attention to this great cause and service.
And as I understand this, the idea of the comedor began actually during the pandemic.
Yes.
So I do have to ask, how did you live through that? How was it for you?
It wasn't bad for me because I had enough resources that I could not work for a little while. I was on tour with my concerts when it hit. So I decided to stay out of New York, stay in the West Coast. I went to Palm Springs. I went to Provincetown, which is near Boston. It's a nice seaside village that's comfortable for queer people also. I worked, and then I started acting again. I worked on the show Shrill that we shot in Portland. And in London, I was doing another show based on Sandman, which is the Neil Gaiman, comic
Yeah, I know
book.
it. I know it. I have the graphic novels. I have them.
Yeah, it's great. And I played the gay guy who does drag. And then I played Joe Exotic in El Rey Tigre, the dramatización of the documentario called Joe versus Carol for the Peacock channel in Estados Unidos, co-starring Kate McKinnon, who is on Saturday Night Live, a wonderful lesbian comic who's brilliant. And so I had a very good COVID. I also was creating little communities. I would rent a house in different places, and the COVID orphans, the people who lost their apartment or their boyfriend or their job, they would come and stay with me sometimes. So we create little bubble in different cities, like a shelter,
Yeah.
So for me, it activated me. I made an album, a remotely made album with my friends. They send me tracks and I would write melodies and lyrics. So I put out an album called New American Dream. I am working on a new podcast series that's fictional called Cancellation Island, La Isla de Cancelación. It's where the canceled people go.
Oh, okay.
We wonder where they go, but they all go to this island. And it's in the Gulf of Mexico. And I didn't know this, but there's two little nipple-shaped areas in the Gulf of Mexico that are international waters between Estados Unidos y Mexico y Cuba.
Oh, okay.
Just two little nipples. And in the map, you can't see any islands in it, but I have an imaginary island. They call it La Isla Curativa, but it's really for the canceled people. And it's a satire about, a certain amount of gringo political correctness and, but with love in it. So maybe I'll be canceled. I don't know. But I'm having fun with it because I find that a little exhausting when we have real problems to worry a lot about language and policing language and all of that, which is a very, to me, first world problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's like when my Mexican friends go, "What are you arguing about?" When people are trying to eat and live and get a job, it's like worrying about the pronouns. And I understand the need for them because they come from a real place of abuse and bad behavior. But you start to lose a sense of humor when you get very policey, you know what I mean? So my sense of humor is curativa, I hope, but also irreverent. Nothing is sacred for me.
It never
except
had.
love.
Yeah, it never was. So I'm guessing by what you're saying, you're not exactly okay with the cancellation culture.
Well, to me, it's a waste of energy when we have true enemies and true problems. Trump is a danger, for our country. He could come back. as you can see, things like abortion are going back to the way it was in the 60s. We may lose gay marriage. We have a strange minority control of our government from the Republicans who have given in to Trump. They've given into an extreme right wing. I have friends who are conservative, but they're reasonable. They're just traditional. They're not crazy. They're not conspiracy theorists. They're not power mongers who hate immigrants, gay people, Muslims, anyone they think is not them.
Yeah, they're not
is
violent.
A danger to them. Yeah, they talk about this fucking racial replacement theory, and it's like, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you really think there's an organized? People are trying to live, and America and Mexico was a nation that was built on immigration. Mm-hmm. Yes, indigenous people were mistreated, for sure. But at its best, these countries were mosaics. They were amalgamations of talents from all over the world, indigenous inspiration that was disrespected and needs to be respected, and a combination of beautiful and difficult things. I grew up in the army, so I lived all over the world. All of my schoolmates were from all over the world, different languages, races, genders. So I never understood when people get very white supremacist, very nationalist. I don't get it, even though I grew up in the military. Because why not just a mixed party is always the best. What have you got to bring to the party? I don't care where you're from. Give me respect. I'll respect you. Let's play. Let's write a song together. Let's sing. Let's dance.
And that is kind of exactly what you're doing with John Cameron Mitchell and friends. I understand you even have one Korean pop star joining you in the show, and a lot of other people, because you're not going to be alone on stage this time. So what kind of surprises are we expecting?
Well, I'm doing the benefit show at Manos Amigues, junio 24 a las 7, con mis amigos, amigas de Corea, de Texas, una banda gitana de Ciudad de México. It's going to be a lovely mix of Hedwig songs, Led Zeppelin, Gypsy, Silvio Rodriguez, whatever. Original songs from my singer friend Amber, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be really fun. And the next day, Sábado, we are also doing a set at Zócalo for Pride.
Oh, okay, for Pride. You're going to be there for Pride.
Yeah. So we have a 20-minute set in Zócalo for maybe, it's going to be a big Pride this year, right? After COVID. It's going to maybe be 100,000 people in the square, and it's the biggest square in North America, and I'm very excited. I'll have a full outfit for that, a big costume, because it's a big square. And the one at Manos Amigues will be more friendly and small and relaxed. So and maybe I'll be DJing on Sunday also. At the former presidential palace. I'll find out more about that. But I'll be announcing these things at all our parties, our performances, rather.
Amazing. The last time I saw you with this big theatrical outfit was actually during the Hedwig concert, and you had the big wig, the iconic wig, and this black and white sort of dress. Amazing.
Yes.
Dress.
Yes, I'm going to wear that in Zócalo because I need to be big.
Big. I was gagging.
For the crowd. It's great, isn't it?
And I have to tell you, Silvio Rodriguez, he was the very first singer I got to see on stage. My mom is a big fan of him, and she took me to a concert when I was very young. So it's very strange now to hear you say that you're gonna sing songs from Silvio Rodriguez.
I love him.
I know what songs are you singing from him?
Well, I'll probably sing one that I sang at that last concert there, which is called Cassiopeia. It's not a very well-known one, but it feels very queer to me. It's like his Ziggy Stardust ballad because it's about someone who is from the constelación Cassiopeia.
Uh-huh.
He's an alien, so he's stranded on Earth. They've forgotten him back in his home planet, and he's thinking about how he's changed and whether they remember him. You know, no, nadie contesta mi llamada, mi señal.
Uh-huh.
It's very touching for me, and it feels like a queer story in a way. So I might also sing Te doy una canción.
Te doy una
I don't know if you know
canción.
yeah.
Beautiful.
But I do love him. And my friend, mi amigo tapatillo, cantador Juan Son, do you know him?
I don't.
He had a band called Porter, like about 50
Oh, okay.
years
Yeah,
ago.
I know Porter.
Yeah, and he has that very high voice. He's a wonderful singer, and he introduced me to Silvio, and he also taught me to play guitar. And I'm hoping I can seduce him to come sing with me from Guadalajara, but he's very shy nowadays.
And I'm also hearing you're gonna sing some songs from Shortbus, which is very exciting
Yes.
because it's actually one of my favorite movies of you.
See?
It's and I do want to know. It talks a lot about sexual taboos. I love this scene
Yes.
where they're doing like this three-way rim job while singing the national anthem. Like that is just brilliant and shocking. So when you did that movie, did you get in any kind of trouble, or trying to release that movie? Did you get in any kind of trouble?
And we had a full release. As they say, after the massage. We had a full release and not really any problems at that time. I was hoping for a little bit more. Interestingly, back then, the resistance would come more from a conservative religious point of view. Nowadays, I don't know if I could make it because the resistance might come more from the left in a way, because there's a little bit of a puritanism
Mm-hmm.
in the left right now, because the young people are kind of scared of sex and digital panic about real life. And because of Me Too and consent issues, there's a feeling of, oh my God, if someone's having sex, someone is being exploited. And that's a very Estados Unidos Puritan streak that is underneath everything. And it gets on my nerves, because one of the joys of life is sex. And of course, sex can be complicated and boring and depressing and violent, but it's also a wonderful thing that can be another way of interacting. For a queer man, it is the medium through which the message comes through often.
Yeah.
And, for queer men, we often meet our friends through sex, and it's like not as big a deal as it is for others who get terrified as this irrational urge. So yes, I wanted to show a more New York comedy that's heartfelt view of sex, and also to counteract the boring kind of sort of commercialization of sex through internet porn, which is sliced and diced and kind of like capitalism won. Capitalism took over sex, and young people learn about sex from porn now, and it fucks them up a little bit because they watched it for too long before they have it. So when they finally have it, they're terrified and they try to imitate it. They're not creating it for themselves. They're imitating something they're taught. And that's the same problem of comparing yourself to someone else's body. You get very insecure. You can't relax. Young people can't get hard. It's a strange time for young people.
And it talked about important things, not only for the queer community, but there wasn't a character before, or I guess I didn't know any, a woman who couldn't have an orgasm. Like, that is not the kind of things you usually hear about in movies.
No, because it's a man's world. And all those movies where a man and a woman are having sex and they all seem to have a simultaneous orgasm, don't they?
Yeah, they're always having so much fun.
Yeah, and the woman's orgasm is not that important in those stories, just like it is less important in the world, in a man's world, and it's fucked up. So a woman's physicality, there's a different wiring. So the orgasm is more of a full body thing and a big picture thing, whereas men can slice and dice and reduce people to a body part.
Yeah.
You know, they can separate feelings from sex, and women can do that too. But I think the advantage of many women is that they can connect feelings and sex. It doesn't mean you have to be in love, but it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger canvas. And there is a new film with Emma Thompson where she can't have an orgasm, and she hires a prostitute, a male, to help her. And I think there was a Parker Posey movie too called The Big O. But in our case, I was learning from the actress playing the role, who had many women, because of this male world, can't always relax in the situation to find their orgasm.
Yeah.
And men feel they give it to the woman. And it's like, no, she needs to claim it and he has to help. So to me, I learned from my actors. I told the stories that they wanted to tell. We told them together. All of the characters are a little bit of me and a little bit of them.
It's good that we're talking about this new world, new visions of the same world, apparently, but we do have a lot of new words that didn't even exist like 5 years ago. And I'm talking about gender identity, especially.
Yeah.
So when talking about that, do you find that these new terms apply to Hedwig in a way that you didn't think of them before because they didn't even exist? There wasn't a word for them. There wasn't a. I don't know.
Well, think about it. One of my favorite series is Veneno.
Oh,
right?
Amazing!
It's brilliant, right?
Brilliant.
And I've met those actresses. I've met the filmmakers, los Javis. I love them, and I want to work with them. And back then, Cristina La Veneno, who was like Hedwig in a way, but a real person who was a trans sex worker, was pulled off the street and became a celebrity on Spanish television. Back then, and maybe still now, a trans person, the term travesti, which really is more of a cross-dresser, right?
Yeah.
And drag queen, was used for trans people for a while, right? And then it became transsexual, and then transgender, so the language changes as we get more specific about our experience. But along the way, we're learning. And sometimes we can focus so much on the language that we forget the spirit, and we police each other so much that we forget what the purpose of it is. We start policing and lashing out at our natural allies, our natural friends, while the right wing laughs and we're doing the work for them to divide us. So for me, labels are important if you want them to be. I don't think they need to be forced on people. I think when you're young, labels are very important because you're trying to free yourself from your parents.
Yeah.
And when you get older, you forget what you are, right? You forget your phone number. You forget your pronoun. I'm non-binary in effect. I don't like the word because it feels temporary, because it's a negative, right? Non-binary. I prefer androgynous, androgyne, or
gender fluid, maybe.
Gender fluid. Yeah. It's like, to me, there's no perfect words. So make your own up, make your own pronouns. Who cares? But let's not let's not be like a cat who's looking at a piece of lint for too long and forgetting the big picture. That's like a guy who's can only get off when he looks at, one part of the body. It's like, let's think of this as a whole body. We are all part of a whole body. And let's find the things we have in common, course, there will always be people that we need who are very ugly people who we need to fight, hateful people. But usually that's not our friends. Our friends are maybe, maybe just need a little educating, or just, let's not forget humor as well. Humor can reduce all of these tensions, and sometimes in the political correct world, humor disappears and it's impossible to make a joke. Because it's not the word that is the problem, it's the way you say it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
we all grew up with maricon, right? And maricon can be used as a weapon and it can be used as a friendly thing, right?
Yeah. Are you trying to be insultive, or are you trying to just make me a part of it?
Yeah. I don't think we should cancel the word maricon. It's just how you use it. You diffuse it, And if you're not a maricon, can you use it? Yes, if you use it the right way. Language is just something to use, So I'm learning, in the Estados Unidos, they started using the term Latinx, which feels awkward for many of my Latine friends.
Yes.
Which I prefer Latina because it feels more organic. Latinx sounds like Elon Musk, space, kind of thing, which
something
it feels
alien,
artificial.
like something from the X-Men. Yeah.
Yeah. And it came from academia, right? And you don't want to force it on people who don't feel comfortable. Let's just relax, use whatever we want. Black people, they don't care. Use Black, African American, which is a long word. They don't care as long as it's being said with respect. That's all we want.
And I do need to ask, because we have a lot of theater lovers following El Aquelarre. Have you ever been approached about having a Mexican production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch? And
yes,
would you be open to that?
Of course, and I believe there have been some, as far as I know, but I'm wide open to that. In fact, Los Javis in Spain want to do a production there, and maybe that could come to Mexico as well. I'm wide open to that. I want people to do their versions of Hedwig the way they need to. Don't cut lines, but add things. Make it local. Add jokes. Talk about what's happening in the news. It's a living document. Our script. It's not a dead document. It can change.
It's still,
and sometimes
it's alive.
Yeah, it's also rock and roll. It's also stand up. You can change things. It's not a museum piece. It has to keep living. And a drag race star is doing it in the UK right now. Other productions, they've done a production with 10 Hedwigs.
Okay.
One for each song. I love it. Surprise me. Don't imitate Broadway. Do your own version.
What advice would you give to someone playing Hedwig?
It's interesting because everyone I met who've played it, it's the most difficult role they've ever done, physically and mentally. And it changes them. Nothing is frightening afterwards, but doing it feels overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
You've got to get into physical shape. You've got to take care of your voice. No smoking or drinking alcohol when you're doing it. You become a warrior. You need to train to become a warrior to play this role. It's emotionally draining. It's so much fun. It's the best role you'll ever get.
Yeah.
And any gender, any sexuality, any race, any age can play it. It is drag. Drag is for everyone. It's not a trans role. The character is forced into an operation, which I do not consider a trans story because it's not about agency. It's about the patriarchy, or what I call the binarchy. Binarchy telling you what it means to be man or woman from a top down.
Yeah.
It's horrible, so the character is castrated against their will. They sort of agreed to it to escape, communist Germany, but it's not a choice really, and the character is left behind, abandoned in the US, And it's only through drag and rock and roll do they find their power again.
And
And then
humor.
at the end, and humor, just make it's all that's part of drag, you know. It's Little Richard, it's David Bowie, it's RuPaul, it's all of these people that I worship as messengers of the natural non-binariness that is in all of us. We have to use all of our energies, or they die inside us like an animal dies inside your wall. It can really stink up the house
Yeah.
if you don't, let it be free.
I have only seen it
So
once live, and
uh-huh.
I saw Andrew Reynolds, and he was amazing.
Oh, he was good, right?
He was very good.
Yeah, very good. We're hoping to bring it back to Broadway. Um, oh, I might have to go soon because I'm in the middle of a convention at a hotel in Long Island.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah. I'm
starting
gonna cut soon. Yeah.
to come. Great.
I just have one last question because
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Shrill, and
Oh.
you get to play this like kind of Miranda Priestley fantasy of being the kind of evil editor. Uh, so how was that for you? Is that a big fantasy?
It was really fun. I did it more to pay for my mom's health care because we don't have any, universal health care in our country. But I ended up really enjoying the role. He's the bad part of me,
Yeah.
The one who's always saying, "Oh, it was better in the past," and I used to be punk, and you should question authority, but don't question me.
Yeah.
It's like he's a bad gay that does see things changing, and some things are worse for sure. But it was very fun to do that. It was a kind of a version of a character I did on Girls, which was also an editor. And then it seems like lately I'd be playing nothing but gay villains, Joe Exotic. In this new series that I'm shooting here in Long Island, it's called City on Fire. It comes out next year on Apple, and I play a horrible, murderous rich guy, and it's a lot of fun. Lots of nice suits.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to Manos Amigues, the concert, and I'm definitely looking forward to your podcast because I'm also a big podcast fan and a big podcast listener. I'm barely
cool.
getting used to the new fictionalized podcast format, but it's a thing I'm into. I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a musical podcast series called Anthem Homunculus, which is I star in. I play a guy who has a brain tumor and no health care, so he's crowdfunding his health care. And Glenn Close plays my mother. Patty Lupone is my aunt.
Jesus.
Cynthia Erivo is the mother of my child. Laurie Anderson plays my tumor. So check that one out.
Yeah, just because of the people you named, I have to check it out.
Yes, you have.
There's no other road for me. Thank you so much for being so nice, John. This was amazing.
Oh,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. No problem. You take care, Yvonne, and we'll see you at Manos Amigues and also at Zocalo Square.
Definitely, Pride all the way. I can't believe you are actually celebrating Pride with the Mexican
hell
people.
Yes. I'd rather be nowhere else. I'd rather be and nowhere else.
It's gonna be
all right. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Right. Bye.